Hey friends, Scott Barber here, Grace Community Church in Worthington with another message about the resilient joy that the gospel gives us. We're finding this out in God's Word here in the book of Philippians, and today we're in Philippians chapter 1 verses 12 and 13, and we're going to see the theme today of this resilient joy that only God provides allows us to advance in adversity. I couldn't help but think about the image coming into this little devotion here of a slingshot. And growing up as a boy, loved slingshots. Probably broke some things that I shouldn't have with slingshots. But anytime we find a stick with a little bit of a Y in it, attach some kind of like rubber bands around it, right? And pull that baby back in order to let that that rock or that paper clip or whatever it may be zing forward, right? Well, when we think of our circumstances in our life and adversity and hardships and like now, the circumstances that we're in that are uncertain, outside of our control, it feels like it's pushing us back. It's opposition to our goals, to our ends, to what's important to us, and we feel overwhelmed. Like that opposition is going to take something from us. It's going to overtake us. All right. But there's something that Paul will show us here in today's word that what that pushing back does is like that slingshot, where if we have the resilient joy, like what we see in Paul, that pushing back, that opposition gets translated into forward momentum. How does this work? Well, let's look in here at God's word, Philippians chapter 1, verses 12 and 13. Paul says, "I want you to know, brothers, that what has happened to me has really served to advance the gospel, so that it has become known throughout the whole imperial guard and to all the rest that my imprisonment is for Christ." Now, Paul here, he's imprisoned. His freedoms have been taken away. His liberties have been taken away. He's quarantined not because he wants to be, but because it's enforced on him. There's persecution. There's threat to his livelihood here. But what does he say? Even though he's experiencing opposition to the very thing that he stands for, the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, even though there's opposition, what does he say here? It served to advance the gospel. So even though he's being pushed back or held back, he's arrested literally. His work has not been arrested. Even though he's in adversity, the word here is he is advancing in adversity. I don't know about you, but that's exciting to hear that. That's what this resilient joy enables us to do, is to translate opposition of our circumstances or relationships or situations that we're in, to translate that opposition that pushes us back into slingshotting that into forward momentum. How is that possible? Well, the first thing, there's a lot here, a lot of great stuff here. The first thing I want to focus on is what is it that Paul is holding on to? Here's the deal, friends. What you're holding on to in this life, what's most important to you, will determine your joy, will determine your resilience. Because if what you're holding on to and finding joy in, to find hope in, if it can be taken away from you, then it's going to be threatened with fear and anxiety. But if what you hold on to can't be touched, what you hold on to and find joy in, if it can't be touched, then you're going to find that in these moments of adversity, you'll be able to advance. In these moments of adversity, this opposition can be fuel for forward momentum. What is Paul holding on to here? His imprisonment. Everybody else knows now. His imprisonment is for Christ. Not just because he was a missionary, but he has made it his purpose. What he holds on to, what's his most important thing, is the gospel. And what does this mean? It is the good news that Jesus God himself came to step into our shoes. We celebrate it right now. This season, Easter, God stepped into our shoes to take our punishment, to live the life that you and I couldn't live, the perfect life, and die in our place. A horrible death, facing hell. But not only that, to be raised, to conquer death for us. You see, Paul was holding on to this good news of Jesus and what he's done for us. His death and resurrection is finished. You can't touch the finished work of Jesus. That's why Paul's joy was resilient. That's why this opposition translated into forward momentum, because you can't stop the finished work of Jesus on the cross and in the grave. You can't touch that. These times are exposing for us the things that we're holding on to, though. We don't know what we're holding on to ultimately until it's threatened to be taken away, right? Our security, our finances, our freedom to be able to go in and out, do whatever we want, our sense of national security, the strength of this nation. We're the strongest nation in the world. We can't stop the coronavirus. What you're holding on to, what we hold on to, what we value most, determines our joy, determines our resilience. Paul was able to advance in adversity. You and I can as well. He turned opposition into momentum. Why? Because of what he was holding on to was the gospel, was Jesus. You can have that same thing as well. If we're holding on to Jesus, if we replace the things of this world, the things that can be taken away from us, from the one thing that can't, and that's the finished work of Jesus Christ. Friends, I hope that you can take hold of resilient joy for yourself today, like Paul, to face adversity and advance, to turn opposition into momentum, because you have the joy that comes from the gospel. I hope you have a great day and have a great week. And we're going to unpack this more next week. Take care.